Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we'll be talking about some unfortunate and very sad news. As of yesterday, this news broke out about Deathgarden, and I basically just wanted to go ahead and talk about today in this video and read kind of what they posted about it and what they were talking about. If you haven't heard already, basically Deathgarden announced yesterday that unfortunately, due to the lack of success of their game Deathgarden Bloodharvest, that they're going to be closing down as a development studio, or not as a development studio because they are a part of Behavior, but the team itself for Deathgarden has been disbanded and broken apart and sent to other different types of Behavior projects that are live and unannounced. So before I basically give my thoughts and opinions about this, I kind of want to go ahead and read more about this and what exactly the Deathgarden team basically said directly to the community. So I'm going to go ahead and read this right in front of us so we can talk about it. Dear Deathgarden community, they say that all good things must come to an end. Over the past few weeks, our team has been rather quiet about the development of Deathgarden. Witnessing the decreasing player base, we've been working on finding solutions. We sought advice, considered many different scenarios, looked at various solutions, but unfortunately, none of them would change the fate of this project. Today, it is with a heavy heart that we're announcing the end of Deathgarden's development. To honor the production team's work, we have decided to give the game a meaningful last breath by finalizing every feature we've been working on. 2 years ago, a handful of passionate game developers at Behavior got together to develop a new game concept. This paved the way for the great talents to join the team, and we want to acknowledge the work of every single person who took part in this soulful adventure. Deathgarden was, and still is today, a project of passion, a game that we wanted to make for ourselves, but also for players around the world to enjoy. This project has made us go through a roller coaster of emotions, from the first version to the reboot, and we take pride in what we have accomplished. We grow a lot from this experience as a team and as individuals, and we will keep on going and we will keep on taking risks and be innovative to meet our players' expectations. For the future, the Deathgarden team has been redeployed to other Behavior projects, both live and unannounced. All of this work wouldn't have been possible without you, the community. We want to thank you for your continuous support and contribution toward the ride. We want to leave this adventure on a high note and make the work that we've been doing these past few weeks worth it for you. In the light of the news, we wanted to have one last moment to share with you. We will be hosting a Deathgarden Sunset Play with the devs livestream on December 12th at Twitch TV/Deathgarden Games starting at 3 p.m. EST to share our love for the game with you. We will keep Deathgarden service up at least through the end of the year, and you will still be able to play the game as long as matchmaking is viable. We are also making the game free today so more people can join you. Thank you so much for your support for the past 2 years. We will see you again soon, the Deathgarden team. Now, unfortunately, this is some pretty sad news, like if we already addressed. To me, personally, I thought that Deathgarden was a pretty good game, a pretty solid title. Had its balance issues and had some identity problems, I think, because the game didn't seem to know where it wanted to be, whether it was competitive or casual, or the game had struggled at first to decide whether or not what it wanted to be, like the aesthetic of the game. It went from being more realistic and cool to trying to do a cartoony style, kind of, whenever it released at first, but then when the game flopped and failed and people complained, they tried to do a whole reboot, give the game a bunch of lore and have a whole different theme, but that didn't work either. So ultimately, with a mix of an identity crisis plus some balance issues, I do think that that's probably one of the reasons that led to the game's downfall. Not to mention that I think a major application as to why this game did not succeed at all was because of Dead by Daylight itself. We've already seen all these other games like last year and Friday the 13th, and even the Hide or Die that came out recently just flop and not do well. They started off by doing well, but then as people kind of play and see how bad those games are, or incomplete or unfinished or buggy or etc, the games just have died. And Dead by Daylight has been the only one in this genre to basically stay on top for all this time. And to me, I think Deathgarden was put up against something that they just didn't have a chance to fight against. It's a little bit odd to me that Behavior decided themselves that they wanted to make another game that was in the same genre as Dead by Daylight, because ultimately with all the other games failing and Dead by Daylight basically being the only popular and successful one in this genre, it was kind of weird to make another game that literally had to compete with the company's own community and own player base for players. Knowing this, it just kind of makes it hard for me to see that this game could have succeeded in the first place regardless of how good it was, especially when Dead by Daylight already has its popularity and already has so many things drawing the game and making it more mainstream, including licensed chapters, a popular TV and movie characters. So ultimately, to kind of summarize, I think it's just the game's identity crisis and balance and gameplay issues that a lot of the community have expressed, and a mixture of also how the only successful game out there is Dead by Daylight, and this game was basically competing with its own community to fight for players. But I also also wanted to talk about some of the advertising too. Behavior has a weird problem with advertising, and I think that's something that should be fixed and addressed for any of their future projects. I've been criticizing their advertising for the longest time because because Behavior really does not know how to advertise things. I have never once saw an advertisement for Dead by Daylight. I had to come across Dead by Daylight itself just for me to fall in love with the game and then actually play it. The advertising was not there. I had to go find it and search for it myself after I was randomly exposed to it. Not much of advertising. You never see a trailer. You never see anything like that. And the same thing also applies for Deathgarden, in the sense that Deathgarden literally had a trailer, but Deathgarden did not have any reach. Like, the Deathgarden channel did not have any subs, any followers, had very little traction to it. Deathgarden did not have the company behind it, Behavior, pay for any trailers to be advertised all over YouTube or anywhere else. Deathgarden was literally a game that was just launched, and the only way I even knew Deathgarden existed was because it was kind of spoken about within the Dead by Daylight community itself. And even then, only a few people actually took the time to actually go check it out because everybody was so invested and still is invested into Dead by Daylight. So ultimately, with the hard reach and the hard and how bad the developers, or at least Behavior in a sense, has been at advertising their games, it doesn't kind of strike me as surprising that this game has died, because ultimately with the framework that this game had and the way it released and the way it was competing and being advertised, I don't think this game had a chance, and it's a shame. This game, I know for a fact, just by talking to and even looking at some of the developers and watching some of the streams and stuff, I had a lot of passionate people behind it, and I'm disappointed that a game like this that honestly should have succeeded or at least had a chance got put to shame and is now being left with no support. It disappoints me overall that Deathgarden's team has to disband. It disappoints me that this game is losing support because, yeah, although the game's now free and it's kind of cool that anybody else can play until the servers close down, but it's like, what about the people that actually paid for the game? Some people kind of invested their money to try to support this project and it ultimately failed, so it's a bit shocking. It's a bit crazy to say the least. So I'm gonna wrap up this video, but I kind of just talked about all of those things, and maybe you guys can leave the comment section down below whether or not you guys agree or not. Simply put, the game struggled. The game had a rough time, and I don't think it had a chance to begin with, from all the factors I spoke about earlier. I wish all the developers and the people in the production of Deathgarden, I wish everybody on the Deathgarden team the best of luck on their future endeavors. I hope. It seems like all of them, at least for the most part, did find jobs in other departments and other spots within Behavior. So thankfully, it doesn't seem like everybody got fired or anything. It just seems like the team's just disbanding from Deathgarden and they're leaving the project behind. But it's a bit of a shame, and I want to thank the Deathgarden team for trying their hardest, for putting their hard work and passion into the game and putting some effort into it. They did a really good job with the reboot and all the hard work they put into it, all the additional content, and even them, they even updated the game one last time, in which they added 3 different types of maps. They made all the cosmetics in the game dirt cheap, so you can go in and buy practically all of them super cheap. And they also added new cosmetics and stuff to the game too. So even then, now with all the features and the game even just dying because and the team disbanding, it's kind of cool that they actually did try to release at least a little bit more content that they were working on. So anyway, guys, that's going to be it for today's video. It's a little bit of a sad day, or a little bit of a disappointing day. Maybe not for some of you guys, or a lot of you guys, because a lot of people didn't really know this game existed, or a lot of people don't really care. But to me, at least I cared, and a lot of other people did too. So anyways, that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you guys did, don't forget to slap the like button on the channel, subscribe, hit the notification bell to be notified for all of my uploads. And I guess I will talk to you guys all later. Peace.